All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, all across the globe, welcome to another time with Dr. E on Next Up.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm excited to be back with you. You know how I am about excitement. You got to have excitement and enthusiasm in your life. Welcome to Next Up. We got a very special guest today that's falling right in line with our desire to encourage, enlighten, edutain, and empower us so we can become a better version of ourselves, so we can do what we have never done before and be a blessing to humanity. And of course, expanding the kingdom of God. My special guest today is from one of my favorite cities. I have been where she is. All right. And that is they're in Cape Town, South Africa. My special guest today, Sister Kondile. And I think I got it right, did I not?
Yes, you did.
I did
Yes,
a
you
good
did.
job. All right. Well, I welcome to the Next Up podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure meeting you back there at the summit that we had with the Atlanta Black Chambers of Commerce. It was a pleasure meeting. We had the chance to chat for a little bit and got to feel one another out. And here it is. We made it happen that you're now on our Next Up podcast. Tell our audience a little bit about Pi, her upbringing and so forth. What
Okay, so
all
I've got
called.
a very checkered, I've got a very interesting upbringing, in the sense that um, my father was Mozambican, my mother was Zimbabwean. I was born in Botswana. Um, at the age of 3 months, moved to the UK. Stayed there until I was about 12, at which case Zimbabwe had gone through its independence and all that, and then came back to Africa, to Zimbabwe as it was, Zimbabwe Rhodesia as it was then. Stayed there for 8 years in total, and then moved down to South Africa, and now I'm a South African.
Oh, wow. Wow. And by the way, I've been to Zimbabwe as well.
Okay, great. It's a
Yeah.
lovely place. It's a lovely place. It
And I,
suffers from bad PR, but it's a very beautiful place.
and I believe that's the country of Niagara Falls.
No, no, Victoria
I mean,
Falls.
Victoria Falls. Victoria. That's I'm
Yeah, I
thinking.
think Niagara Falls is Canada border.
Yes, yes. Victoria. Yeah. I was on the line, as a matter of fact, with someone this past week from Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
all right.
they're building some homes there in near Victoria Falls.
Oh, wow, wow. That
Just
is interesting.
this past week. So now you're in the beautiful city of Cape Town.
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow.
So, I studied, I suppose I'll go into my academic background. So I initially came down to Cape Town to study finance. So I did two junior degrees in information systems and one in accounting science. And then I went on and did two postgrad studies. I did a postgrad in accounting science. And then after that, then I did financial analysis and portfolio management, which then kind of led me into the investment sphere. So I did that for a while. So I started off as an accountant, and then eventually I went into what we call a fund of funds, where basically it's a fund manager who looks after money that's invested in different funds
Okay.
across all the asset classes, being property, cash, bonds, equities. Okay, so I did that for a while, and then after that, then I went into um, infrastructure management. So there, I work for an Australian bank that basically invested in infrastructure. So we invested in roads, airports, power stations, anything infrastructure. So I did that for a while. Um,
Oh,
Sat on the boards of a couple of a couple of those companies, looking after their assets on behalf of our investors. And then that's the interesting part starts, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like you spent all of your life, you know. Wow, very interesting. And you were in banking for how long?
I was in banking for about 10 years.
10 years. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing about me is that I'm a consummate student. I love learning. So I will try my hand at anything where I think that I could learn something. And I'm a great believer in passing on what I've learned to other people. So I believe in that you fill up so you can pass on. So that's always been my philosophy. So I learn as much as I can, and then I impart the nuggets of wisdom as I go through my life.
The philosophy is to fill up so you can pass on.
Yeah.
I like that. Wow, that is godlike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's an expression of how our creator is, that he passes on. He shares. I really like that heartbeat.
Yeah.
Then what happened next? Because it seems like you're into now a next.
I
Uh,
am into a next. So I suppose I could tie this in with one of my favorite scriptures, if you don't mind,
sure.
where Zechariah 14, Isaiah um, 43, 18 to 20. Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. So for me, I've carried this scripture along with me throughout my entire life, because I feel that people should not be scared to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, the scariest thing is that we hold onto the former life, hoping that, because you've invested so much, and what happens if I change? But the reality is that if you're walking with God, you don't know what tomorrow has anyway. So why
Yeah.
are you holding on to the past? And how do you know that the door that you're in is the right door that you're supposed to, the right room that you're supposed to be in? So because you've gone into a door, it doesn't mean it's the right room. So for me, I worked in investment banking for many years. I was, I suppose, seduced by the fact that, you get lots of money, and, it's big bonuses and the adrenaline rush and all that. But
Uh-huh.
that wasn't really my calling,
Mm.
in the sense that I'd always wanted to be a mother. And throughout that journey of being in such a stressful, high testosterone environment, where often there was no one who looked like me. I was
Wow.
often um, the only woman in the room,
Mm.
and sometimes the only Black woman. Because even though in South Africa we've enjoyed democracy for the past 30 years or so, the economy is still in the clutches of the few.
Gotcha. Okay.
So often I was the only person like me in that room, expected to work ridiculous hours. And I suppose it's the story of anyone who's in a space where, they are, you know, they're pioneering the space. They often have to work a lot harder than other people. I had a boss who, I remember, he'd send me messages at 2 a.m. in the morning,
2
and
a.
then wonder why they weren't responded to by 7 o'clock when I got to the office, that
Wow.
type of thing. And then, so I went through a number of health challenges, in the sense that I was trying to have a baby with my husband, and it just wasn't sticking.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't sticking. So then a point came, I had to come to the realization that I could either be an employee, a well remunerated employee, But then what happens if something happens to me? There's no legacy. There's nothing to leave all this to. I think part of our intrinsic human nature is that we reproduce so that we pass on what we are given. So when I got to a point where, like I said, I went through all these fertility challenges. My husband and I decided that he was incredibly supportive. He said to me, look, what is it that you want? And whatever it is that you want, we'll make it happen.
Wow.
So I resigned. I waited, of course, until I got my last bonus, because that would be crazy not to.
Yeah.
got my healthy bonus, and immediately after I knew that the bonus had vested, then I resigned, and then sat around at home for a while, and then the motherhood journey started.
Okay.
And then I thought, okay, so what is it that I can do that will enable me to be a present mother and yet still be economically active? So then I decided that I would then go and study.
Just before you go there, did you see now, before you went through the episode of the banking, did you see it way back in your life, maybe at a younger age?
No.
You didn't see the pie now and where you've evolved to. You didn't see it way back?
I've always liked working with my hands. I've always been creative. It was always been one of these things where I've always joked that I have a left brain, right brain, and that I can be incredibly analytical, and yet at the switch of an invisible button, I can be artistic as well. So for me, it's never been one or the other.
Okay.
It's always been, I mean, even my approach to fashion when I first started was I would use angles because that was what I was used to. I studied maths, so everything had to be angular, and everything had to be, I could have done architecture or something like that. But so my designs were always very architectural when I did study fashion design. But when I applied for fashion design, I had never drawn anything in my life because, I did the sciences, I did languages because I like languages. So I did languages up to O level, which would be about 16 years old. And then the last 2 years of school, I did maths, physics, and chemistry.
Okay. Oh, wow. Wow. So where you are today, you didn't do that in your prior years?
No, I didn't. So that's why I said, that's why I started with the scripture of being in a position where I can pivot. I just trust and I pivot. His ways are higher than my ways.
Yes.
I just trust, and if something inside me tells me to do something, then I've learned to trust that voice, no matter how scary it is. So
was it scary?
When I applied to,
was it scary for you as you've evolved into the now that you're in? Give us your thoughts, your feelings. Because see, I'm into a now. I pastored for 20 years. My wife and I call her my girlfriend. You probably heard me mention that when we first met.
So she's going to be happy next week, eh?
Oh yeah, but that's 9 years ago. As of this month, we made that transition from pastoring, and I'll never forget my feelings and things that I was going through emotionally, and who am I? And I'm reaching for identity now that I'm in this new space, being introduced to a new Calvin Ellison. I just wanted to get your feelings and your thoughts in your transition.
My question to you would have been, that version of yourself, was it a version that you were holding on to, that you created and you were holding on to, or could it maybe have been that the church you were pastoring was one without walls?
Yeah, I think in my case, that's a great question. It was,
So now I'm interviewing you now.
yeah, I noticed you flipped the script on me. I'm like, wait a minute now, she put me in the uncomfortable seat. But no, I think I was holding on to something that was clear because I kept fishing back for the original how this thing got started. So I was holding on to an episode that was supposed to have been a pass through and not a forever. It
That's
was
true.
supposed to
I
have.
mean, you were the fisherman in the boat who said, "But master, we've been fishing all night because that's what we do.
That's exactly, exactly.
Because that's what we do. That's what we've been trained to do.
Hmm.
So when we do something different, then
It's weird, it's strange, so
it's strange."
wow. Yeah, but that was it. And so I got to holding on to it too long in my case. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that caused some other things to arise to get me
Yeah.
to get the anchors up so I'll let the boat move on out into the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay, now you
And then
finished.
you won't fish from the right, you'll fish from the left.
Right, right. Okay. Oh, this interview is going differently. But but yeah, so in yours then, in your case, it was just this new stuff. And I like that scripture. That's one of my favorite scriptures. So tell us now about this new that you're into. Now you're into
Okay, so the new
anchor
is
design.
that when COVID came, and it caused a disruption everywhere. It was a sense of I think it was a fantastic time. Not because we all had to wear masks and we all had to isolate, etc., but it afforded us with the opportunity to stop and think about what was important and what wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I probably all of us have forgotten and we're all back to, what was. But during that period, it was a time of, okay, so what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I kid you not when I say that one night I was sleeping and then I suddenly started thinking of leather bags. And I woke up the next morning and I said to myself, okay, I'm going to start making leather bags. So I mean, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination and a machinist. I'm not.
Okay.
I've yes, I can use a machine, but I'm not a machinist. I'm
Okay.
more of a thinker.
Uh-huh.
I'm more of a thinker. So initially, I decided started designing um, leather handbags, and then I thought about how when I was working in corporate, and like I said, that I was often the only person who looked like me. There were times when I'd be petrified, or I'd walk into a room and you could tell that the decisions had already been taken, but I was just there for cosmetics.
Got you.
Um, and there were times when I felt devalued because of the fact that I mean, I'd like to think that I'm fairly intelligent, but there were times when my voice didn't matter, my
Mm.
opinion didn't matter because things had already been decided. So then what I did was then I decided to create a range of bags that spoke to the Black woman, the Black woman who um, would like to retain the essence of who she is and yet still be able to go into the work environment without total assimilation, if that makes sense.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If I can show you one of my bags and then I can explain
Yes,
what I mean.
please. Please.
All right. I'm going to cover up my face. Is that okay? Can you see it?
Yes, if you could move it just a little bit the other way. There we go, right there. Okay.
Okay. All right. So this bag is called Renako. So Renako, let me see if I can move it. Okay. So Renako means beauty. in Shona. All right.
Okay.
So the thing with Runako is that she has different, you have a triangle, two types of triangle overlaid with each other. Okay, so a triangle there and a triangle there. All right.
Okay.
That symbolizes the fact that as women, we're so multidimensional.
Mm.
Okay. She has a multicolored headscarf.
Okay.
Because she's a mother, she's a nurse, she's a lost property clerk. She's so many things in one, and yet all of us carry so much, but we carry it with grace.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's a nod to I know that there's this cliche about the strong Black woman, and the people have got various interpretations of it, and sometimes it's almost a smear word, a smear phrase rather. But I think that there's so much strength and beauty in Black women, in that we carry so much. We carry not only our history, we carry the future, we carry our communities. We're often the backbone um, of society, and yet we have to carry all of this with such grace and poise. So I think what I've done is I've moved back a bit so that maybe you can see it a bit better.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that in essence is one of, and there's beauty in the fact that we can carry so much with such grace. So all of my bags, they all have a story to tell. The stories are on the website. If you click on each bag, it'll give you the story behind it.
Okay.
So that was what I created, and it hasn't been an easy journey, which leads me into my next scripture, which I'm sure you know what the scripture is.
Oh boy.
Everyone knows this one. Zechariah 4:10. Do not despise these small beginnings,
Oh yeah.
for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line of Zerubbabel's hand. So for me, remember I came from an industry where money was never an issue.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I remember the last year that I worked, we went on holiday we went to the States, to New Orleans, we went to Israel, we went to to Italy, toward the, so it was never an issue that we didn't have money, because we were both working in jobs where we got paid really well.
Okay.
And now suddenly here I am starting a business. And we all know that when you first start a business, as the business owner, you're the last person to be paid, or you
Yes.
should be the last person to be paid, because you
Mm-hmm.
have to look after employees. And like I said, I'm not a machinist, so I have other people doing the work for me. So it's been a humbling time, a humbling season, one in which I've learned to just trust God,
Sure.
just trust the process, trust what I do not see. And in that trusting, I'm not going to say that it's automatic and that I'm always, I'm always perky and but there are times where in those still hard moments is when he comes through for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 What have you seen? You can already see that he comes through for you. What has your relationship with God been like now that you moved out of the old and into this new space? What happened in your relationship with God? Could you give a description?
Okay, I'm going to be very, very honest that there were times when I would love bomb God. I'd be like, oh, God, 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 you know. And then there are times when I wouldn't have the words.
Mm-hmm. Got
There
you.
are times when you're almost scared to say the words,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to be in a position where you don't believe, because then you are, you know, cursed. But at the same time, you don't want to, you believe, but you're too scared to voice it out just in case it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I think all of us go through that period where, and I think if we're really honest, most of us do go through that, where sometimes you're just too scared to ask something because the ask is too big. And
Gotcha.
then what if it doesn't happen?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it doesn't happen, do you then say, oh, well, you know, it wasn't meant to be? Or is there a part of you that says, God, are you there? Did you hear me? Did my
Mm-hmm.
prayers get through to you?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm by no means the perfect prayer warrior. I go through seasons like most people.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably think when I do start love bombing him, I'm sure God just says, oh, she's back again. Um, and then in the quiet seasons, I think sometimes he has to sometimes send someone to tap me on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the reason I ask that, because in my own evolution, I come to realize that, are you familiar with the show years ago over here in America entitled Sanford and Son?
Oh yes, I knew. We all watched it every Friday. We
Okay.
watched it every Friday afternoon.
Sanford, of course, was the ultimate junk collector.
Yes, yeah.
So I come to realize that concerning our Father, He will pick up any and everything, or He will use, in this case, every piece of junk or every item to get us closer to Him.
That's
Because
true.
His first order of the day is intimacy. And I've noticed it in my own life through my transition. I began to notice He's like, I got all that other stuff out there for you. The thing that I value more than the stuff is the intimacy with you. So I'll spare nothing to get you into a deeper level of intimacy with me, you know. And
Yeah.
so that's why I asked that question, because he's always after that. Now I want you to go back and do at least two more bags. But to me, it seemed like there's something of an undercurrent greater than the bags and the design that you do. So it looks like you're speaking to a generation of women and men too.
I am.
Yeah, yeah.
I am. I'm speaking to.
Talk about that.
I only have one other bag with me. I'm speaking to a generation of women who, like I said, have had to who carry who want to carry their past, who want to carry the essence of who they are, but yet they want to be accepted into the spaces that they've been precluded from
Mm-hmm.
in the past, or their mothers and great grandmothers were excluded from. Um, and they have to be, you know, it's the kind of, my bags are almost like they're almost like a security blanket, in the
Okay.
sense that, you know, when you're feeling unsure of yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you've got your sister with you in the form of that bag. Um, and and it's always interesting for me is that there are times when I go into the shop and I just observe people, and I observe what people are drawn to. And I've had instances where, you know, someone will be drawn to a particular bag, and then I observe them, and then they vacillate, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? And then I go to them and I speak to them. I say, oh, this bag is whatever, and I tell the story. And I've had instances where women have burst into tears, have cried, have told me that, you know, it's almost like a form of ministry,
Oh yeah.
in that it allows them to be their authentic self and to accept
Mm-hmm.
who
Yeah.
we are. Because the wonderful thing about Christianity is that, firstly, we're there by grace. None of us is perfect, so we have to accept that we will be accepted with all our faults.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, all of us are adopted into this wonderful family.
Mm-hmm.
So being adopted doesn't mean that if I'm adopted into a Caucasian family, it doesn't mean I'm not Black anymore.
So true.
It just means that they accept me for who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's part of part of the thing that, you know, you have this bag and it allows you to just remind you that you are enough.
Mhm.
You
I,
can be,
your bags remind me of Paul taking the handkerchiefs off of
Mhm.
himself and sending them to people, and healings would occur. Your bags
Mhm.
remind me of an expression of God like unto that for understanding's sake, to where I can see why women would burst into tears, because it's part of what's, like, in my view, the mantle that's on your life to deliver something to this generation, the bag being the carrot, but God wanting
Mhm.
to get to the heart of a generation of people, and he's doing it through the creative design of what he's put in your heart that you've expressed in. And how many bags do you now have?
I think I've now got about 18
18.
different
Okay.
bags.
Wow.
18 different bags. And the funny thing you say that is that I've always been in a position where, remember I spoke earlier about how I believe in imparting knowledge. I've always been, wherever I've always been the person who encourages, the person who, you know, sometimes I have this crystal clarity on situations that I've never been through, but I can speak to them.
Okay.
Um, and sometimes it scares me, and sometimes I've run away from it in the past. I will not lie to you in that I've been in church leadership before and I've run from it
hmm
because it's a heavy mantle, and
hmm
you know, I'm not brave enough to carry the mantle the whole time,
Gotcha. Would
but
you
it's found me in a different way.
mhm. Would you say that you're a pioneer?
I would like to think I am. I think I would like to think that I am. I think that, you know, bags have been with us for time immemorial, but I think for me the difference is in um, I don't copy. I don't copy bags. The designs come from within me, and I often argue with the guys who've been making bags for, you know, forever, and then they say to me, no, but do it like this, you know, and I'm like, no, 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 but then you're dulling my design. This is what I see. And sometimes I've had to sit on the machine, and I make terrible bags because I'm not a machinist,
Mhm,
but I will create the concept and then let them perfect the concept, but working with them. So I'm a pioneer in that sense. I'm a pioneer in the sense of the messaging behind the bags.
mhm,
Um, I'm a pioneer in the sense that I'm acknowledging that Black women, or women, when I say Black, I'm being here, I'm using the South African phrase for Black, where Black means anything not Caucasian, according to our Black economic empowerment legislation. So Black means anything which isn't Caucasian.
mhm.
Okay. In that it provides a voice, and acknowledging the spaces that we now occupy.
And I'm glad you
I
said that.
had I had one bag which unfortunately I didn't bring it in with me. It was inspired by I was watching a Netflix special with Tracy Lee Ellis, and she was interviewing lots of people about hair. And she got to Congresswoman Ayanna Presley. Okay, and she spoke about how she had gone through alopecia. And one day her hair all fell off, and how she had this situation of having to go and stand on the Congress floor, where before lunch or whatever, she'd had a wig on, which had been specially made for her, but she felt uncomfortable in it. And then she decided to go bald. And she spoke about how she went into the bathroom between the sessions, and she spoke to her husband. And her husband said to her that you do not need hair in order to wear a crown. When I
Wow.
heard that, I bawled my eyes out because I'm the person who watches movies and I cry, and so when I'm watching movies, please don't interrupt me because I want to feel the emotion. And then I came up with a bag, which is called amatle. Amatle means beauty in Xhosa, and it features a bald-haired woman with a headband. And for me, that's where I got that inspiration from. That, and she's got a bright red lipstick and bright red nails. So she's a sassy woman, but bald. And so I developed that bag after hearing that story, and I asked my friend to sketch it for me, and then she put that headband on. And I've had so many women suffering from alopecia who wear these heavy wigs, and and wigs aren't comfortable in this part of the world. Africa's hot, y'all. It's hot, y'all.
It's hot. It's hot.
It's hot, y'all.
Did it in 103-degree weather one time in Togo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hot. It's hot. It's uncomfortable. The pressure to assimilate, where we must have wigs that are bone straight, as if any of us are born with bone straight hair. Um, and I've had so many women with alopecia gravitating towards that bag without me telling them the story
Hmm.
of how it came across, and they buy the bag.
Wow. See, this is amazing because as I was pondering last night on the interview, the pioneer, that word came up, and hearing you talk about you didn't want to accept that mantle in the church of leadership. And to me, I can see that God is
I was
speaking.
even a deaconess at one point.
You were a deaconess?
I was a deaconess.
You were afraid of that too, huh? Right?
I was afraid of that too.
Yeah, I think it's speaking to something bigger that God is bringing you into, that you got to wear on the shoulders of your responsibility. The bags are the expression of the mantle that's speaking to something far bigger, a galaxy, if you would, that God's calling you into, that, hey, this is going to rest on your shoulder. The bags, the business thing, that's an expression of what's lying upon your shoulders, that I perceive that as you fully accept the mantle of the assignment to empower a generation of women while having gone through and dealing with your own internal struggles and thoughts and feelings, but it's yet there on you. And as you accept it, like in my wife and I's case, we were called to minister to married couples. Check this out. After the third year of marriage. Are you kidding me? Who's going to believe us? We've only been married for 3 years. And that was part of my argument with God. Who's going to believe us? But he was like, no, I need you to accept something that you don't feel that you can carry out. And of course, you can't carry it out by yourself. I'll be there with you. But I need you to accept as a child in marriage the assignment of helping to magnify my desires upon married couples. And I see you somewhat like having been in that same vein. And as you fully embrace that, the transition and the bags is really about the undercurrent is a message much bigger than the bags and the business. It is something that as you fully embrace it, you'll never have to worry about finances, for one, in this particular space, because your mission is greater than your business. And it's all intermingled there together, but it's really a part of your creative ministry expression. And that's what I began to see about you last night. So I hope that makes sense to you somewhere in some thought.
It does make sense. It does make sense. But I would be lying, and it would be remiss of me not to say that sometimes I do miss the world of finance.
Sure.
And um, and sometimes I am I'm currently like looking at infrastructure investments on the side, but I'm still.
Sure. I do the
Mhm.
same. When I look back at times, I'm like, wow, I used to be, quote, pastoring in this particular look and ministering in this particular look. But he's like, it's still you, Calvin Ellison, but it's taken on a new expression. And let me express myself through your ministry apostolic assignment in a unique, different way because I'm unlimited in my expression. So I get it. I get where you're coming from. Tell us about that other bag before we close. We got about another 5
Okay.
minutes. I'm eager to hear about that.
So
I
this one.
saw a few of them. Okay.
So this one was inspired by the strong women of Wakanda, the warriors.
Mm,
Um, it's the kind of bag where you've got a tough meeting, that maybe you're going to be the voice of dissent, um, in a room where everyone agrees, and you need your armor, and this is the type of bag that you'd carry with you into battle.
mm,
Um, and it's in neutral colors of olive and cream, because those can be worn with anything. So
mm,
you wouldn't have to worry about, will it clash with my bright red dress or my whatever. Um, it can just be the anchor in your outfit, but at the same time, it can be the anchor that provides you with strength,
mhm. Wow.
that you can look down at it and you can say, these women from Wakanda were bad.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Can be bad too.
So has Pi lived those bags? The
Yes,
expression
I
of,
have. I have. They part of them. Um, I've lived through a lot of them, which is why the stories for me are so, they're detailed.
mhm,
They're stories that speak to different phases in my life, because I've been the employee representative,
mhm,
fighting for other members of staff, because I'm fairly eloquent and I can put my view across. And I've also been the woman who has held another woman's hand after she's been forced to have an abortion. So I've been through a
mhm.
lot of things. Um, my father died
Sounding,
when I
sounding
was
just like a pioneer. You sounding just like a pioneer. That's all. That's why I'm listening and
yeah.
asking these questions because all I hear is the talk of a pioneer coming out. But go ahead.
Thank you. I was saying that my father passed away when I was in my early 20s, and I was very, very close to him. But at the same, he also died when my younger brother and sister were very young. They were 10 and 10, 9 and 7 respectively. So my older brother and I, we effectively each adopted a sibling. So while I was at university, I was working jobs braiding hair and whatever, so I could buy my brother his first bicycle.
Mhm,
Um, so I have carried a lot, but I carry it in such a way that nobody realizes that the weight has sometimes been very heavy.
mhm. Yeah.
And I have cried at night,
Mhm,
but his mercies are new every day. You know, it's the same way that the tears dry on my pillow.
mhm.
We wake up and we face another day.
Yeah. Yeah. All signs of a pioneer. That's
Mhm.
why I keep going right back to that because all of what you're describing are signs of a pioneer and God wanting to bring something on the scene through you that eyes haven't seen, lives have not seen this before. Though people are in the bag industry, but there'll be something about what you produce will have an impact that the others didn't have. And
Mm.
that's
Can I
again,
just give 5 minutes? 5 minutes to tell. I remembered something. 5 minutes in terms of why the bags are called shumba.
okay.
Okay, so shumba is um, a lion, um, and within a pack of lions, there's the male, the alpha male, who's usually the father, and then you have the female lions. Now, within those female lions, they're all going to heat at the same time. They all work collaboratively. So no single lioness is the mother of one cub. They all take turns. Okay. The lioness is the hunter in the pride. She may not get the recognition that she's the hunter because they all hunt as a pack, the females, and then they bring the meal and they eat last after the male. How many Black women are the hunters in their families, and yet they still have to submit under the leadership of the man, who may or may not be the provider? But so that's where that all came from. Sorry, it's just something that I thought, let me just squeeze it in before we run out of time.
No, I'm glad you did, because I call them my cousins. I study them just about all the time, the lions. And I love it when I heard you when you were here in Atlanta, how you brought that out. So I'm definitely glad that you brought that out. So
Thank you.
I like that last one that you brought up, because it really takes strength when you look at what women have dealt with from one nation to the next. And I'm glad that you held that one up. Please hold that one up one more time so my audience can get a view of that and what it speaks to, the strength, that warrior, that lioness aspect. Wow. Wow. You can see the boldness there in the eyes and the facial expression. So awesome. Awesome. Well, you got to tell people how they can get access to the bags, to you, your website.
So I may be coming through on the 20th to Atlanta again. I still haven't finalized. There's still a couple of moving parts that I may need to sort out. But I am on Instagram, Shumba, SHUMBA, bags, all one word. On Instagram, on Facebook, and you're welcome to also contact me via email, info@shumbabags.store. The website is www.shumbabags, all one word, .com.
All right, all right. This has been a delightsome interview. Give us your closing statement. What is it that you want to say to us, to the world, in your closing statement? What is that one statement that you want to?
My closing statement is never be afraid to pivot. Never be afraid. If you've got conviction on something, remember that the grass will be greener where you water it. So water it. Learn as much as you can about the industry that you've chosen. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to look like a fool. And in that, realize that there is growth, and that if you're with God, there's nothing that you cannot do. Because even when you're weak, He's strong.
Yeah, yeah. Come on. Come on.
So that is just trust. Don't be afraid to pivot. If something isn't working, just know that maybe you're not in the right room, and maybe you need to let go of the former things so that you can see the river that He's creating in the wilderness. And there will be a wilderness. There will be.
Yeah.
There will be. We're not going to lie and say that, automatically everything's going to be hunky-dory, because it's not going to be.
No.
We all go through that U curve. We all go through it. But you're not going through it alone. And you're going through it firstly with an all-powerful God, but you're also going through it standing on the shoulders of the women and men who've gone before you.
Yes. Wow. Awesome. Don't be afraid to pivot. And I just want to add to, the wilderness is basically the womb that's going to give birth to the new. We've got to hold on to that and realize that the wilderness is not out there as something running off under its own authority. All of it is under the authority, the tentacle operation of the Wizard of Oz, of God, of course. And so thank you, Pi, for being on and sharing what is happening. We're looking forward to seeing the next expression of Pi and her pioneering prophetic evolutionary assignment, as I see it. So just thank you for being on Next Up today.
Only a pleasure. Only a pleasure.
Praying for your great success as God just explodes you around the world. Yes, Amen. Not for South Africa, it is for the world. And in God's hands, all things are possible. It's going to happen, Pi. You're going to pioneer paths and directions and roads for women like you wouldn't imagine. I just want to encourage you, accept that assignment. That thing that frightens you is the very thing that God wants you to have. That's so you all have been watching Next Up. Don't forget to like, share, and to subscribe to the Next Up podcast. I'm most appreciative to my special guest today out of Cape Town, South Africa. You got to go there one day, everybody. My special guest, Paidamoyo Kondile. All right. Thank you. We'll see you all next time on Next Up. Have a great rest of your day.
Ladies and gentlemen, amen. Ladies and gentlemen, all across the world, you've been listening to Next Up with Dr. E and Miss Pi. It's been amazing today, ladies and gentlemen. And we want you to share this out on all your social media platforms and get in touch with Dr. E to be part of the Next Up. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, please share this out on all your platforms. Take care and have an awesome rest of the day. God bless you now. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.